Welcome to the Grow with Glow podcast, where we explore ways to stay healthy naturally and increase your influence and leadership skills. We're going to jump right in with our first interview and podcast with a good friend of mine. Her name is Dr. Mindy Pelz. Mindy started out her career at the University of Kansas as a tennis star on a tennis scholarship. After graduation, she became a chiropractor and was practicing for over 20 years in Northern California. Helping people naturally seemed to come natural to her. However, when she started putting a pen to paper and writing books, her popularity exploded. Some of the books she wrote that had huge popularity globally were The Reset Kitchen, The Reset Factor, and The Menopause Factor. Recently, she wrote the book Fast Like a Girl. And this topic of fasting is what we're going to explore today, and in particular, that book. Now, you should also know she's almost finishing up another book called Eat Like a Girl. She's given empowerment to women. She's sharing natural health strategies. And if you want to call them biohacks, you sure can. The truth is, she's teaching people to maximize the internal function of their body, to work with the innate intelligence of the body and not against it. She's genius, she's funny, she's authentic. And I guarantee if you lean into this conversation, it could possibly put you on a new trajectory. Hey, that's what this podcast is all about. Natural health and leadership. Whether you're an entrepreneur running a business or just running a busy household, I want to teach you ways that you can have more energy. Because what energy is defined is the ability to do work. And let's face it, we all want to be more efficient. We all want to be more productive. And oftentimes that isn't adding more to your daily routine. It's dealing with the same time we're all given, but just having more focus and having more output from our body, which is oftentimes based on what goes into our body and the factors around us. I'm excited to kick off this podcast with a good friend, an electric and energized Dr. Mindy Pelz. You're going to enjoy this podcast and hopefully many more to come. We want you to grow in areas that you know about. We want you to grow in areas of interest. But maybe most of all, I want you to grow in some areas maybe you didn't think were important or a part of your life that we could put a light on that otherwise would stay in the shadows. And if we can bring some of these areas to light through athletes, through authors, through friends of mine, I know you can influence more people in a positive way. So join us for our first podcast and sit down with a legend, Dr. Mindy Pelz. Hey, so I'm super excited to spend some time with you this weekend. I really appreciate you speaking to our group. A couple quick questions that I have when it comes to fasting before we jump into the book. What is it that you think really kind of intrigues people about fasting and makes them want to do it? Or what are some of the misconceptions that makes them think they can't do it?
Oh my gosh, such a good question. Do you know of all the interviews I've been on, nobody's ever asked me that.
Really?
Yeah, because, and I've asked myself that. Like, what is it that has people gravitating to this healing tool? And I think there's two things. Everybody can do it. It doesn't matter if you don't have enough money. It doesn't matter if you don't have enough time. As you know, those are the two biggest barriers to putting yourself on a healing path.
Right.
So it immediately takes both those out. And then the third is it's because it's so effective.
Right.
I mean, last night I was in my, every once in a while, like maybe every couple of weeks, I go and read my Amazon reviews of the book. And as an author, you rarely read your reviews because people can be pretty nasty, but we've had some positive ones. And I'm fascinated by the language people are using. Because they're discovering innate intelligence. They're discovering their own healing power for the first time.
Right.
And they're like, and then they try to give me the credit. And I'm like, no. You get the credit. You are the one that had to go without food and you got to watch your body heal and you deserve to be the hero. And they love that.
That's awesome.
They love that.
Yeah. So let's talk about that because your innate intelligence is one of the 3 known immune defense systems. It's talked about at Stanford Medical. They teach it at Harvard. The innate immune system is this adaptive immune system, but you are like this exploding expert on this topic of fasting, which just what you said is huge. It's not like I don't have my shaker bottle.
Right.
I forgot my powder on this trip. You know, it's like, I didn't have my gel capsules. It's like, no, actually you go without.
Right.
But what does that do for the immune system? How does that stimulate the innate immune system? Which, again, this is talked about at Stanford. This is talked about in other podcasts. And if someone's talking about from Harvard Medical, oh, it must be fact. The truth is, this is how your body works.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the first thing, I just have to comment on this idea that we outsource our own power. And we can do it in the chiropractic office too. Right. We can be like, oh, the chiropractor gave me such a good adjustment. He or she was amazing. But really, as we know, he or she removed the interference and the body healed itself.
I think it was Joe Strauss that said, actually, the body, we deliver the impulse, the body does the adjusting.
Right. Exactly. So that's the same thing that's happening. You're just removing the food interference. And when you remove the food interference, the memo that nobody got was that you click into this whole other metabolism. It's called your fat burn. I call it the fat burning metabolism. Yeah. We can call it the ketogenic energy system. It's like we're like a hybrid car. It just clicks, you click right over into this healing state.
I love that hybrid car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the easiest way for people to wrap their head around that. Once you're in that fat burning state, so many miracles happen. And one of those miracles is your immune system kicks on in all the wonderful ways. So there was a really interesting study I saw during COVID, and it was like at the end of the first year. And it was about autophagy and what happens when a virus comes into a cell that is in a state of autophagy, which I'll explain in a moment. Mm-hmm. And what they found is that viruses do not have their own energy system. So they have to live off of our energy system. So if a virus comes into a cell that is laden with sugar and has got these real high glucose in there, it has a field day. It chomps on that sugar and it can multiply and become stronger. But if you're in a fasted state and that autophagy trigger has kicked in and that virus comes in to that cell, there's nothing for it to munch on. And so it can't replicate. And the state of autophagy actually shuts it down and stops the replication.
That's huge.
And this study was actually done on COVID in October of 2020.
Wow.
And I was freaking out. I'm like, why don't we have everybody fast? We would end this if we could just get everybody fasting, but instead we're sending them to Dunkin' Donuts and rewarding them for their vaccine.
We're keeping alcohol shops open, weed shops open, places for fast food, but fasting would have actually stimulated the immune system.
It would have stimulated the immune system, and when when I got COVID, that's exactly what I did. When we all had exposure to it, hopefully.
Yeah,
and
I got it. Yeah, I got it, and I know because I did the test, and then I found out later I had the antibodies. I found out after the fact I had a really bad cold, and turns out that was what it was. And I thought, good, because now I have the antibodies.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I got it on, and I tested positive on a Sunday, and I thought, well, let me test my principles. So the first day I fasted, and I felt better. And I was like, on those tests, you can sort of see the lines going down, right? So the second day I test, I was like, oh, I'm going to turn this. I'm going to kill this really quickly. I'm like, well, let me eat today. I ate, and I was eating good quality food, felt horrible the next day, and the lines were going back up. So every other day I fasted, and the days I fasted, I felt better, and I could see that the virus was getting out of my system. Within 5 days, it was gone.
Huge.
So,
huge.
I tested negative within 5 days.
That's wild. So what's so key to this is just kind of what you said in the beginning is not eating. It doesn't require money. It doesn't require certain tools. It's just don't do a thing, which has probably been the best thing for my health in the last 10 years. No joke. It's been your videos, your books that have inspired it. I love that Hay House supports you the way they do. I think we should support them. So anybody listening, if you go to Amazon, leave a positive comment. It's funny you say, I don't read the comments as an author. I pretended like I knew what you meant. I didn't. I was like, oh, right. Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
It's a little brutal.
It's the same thing with my book that I haven't written on Amazon. Yeah, I totally knew. Yeah. But I work with some pro athletes, and it's the same thing for them. They don't read the sports page.
Yeah.
They don't read the columns. They go, why have somebody who's never played the game critique me? So
well said. Yeah.
It's just like that's not a valid representation of who I'm trying to impress. I play for myself, and it's an inside out. Your newest book is Fast Like a Girl.
Yes.
It's my favorite book, so I didn't know
Thank you.
this was. So we have 2 sons and 2 daughters, and my daughters rock. And it's one of those things. I think we have 6 copies in our house.
Amazing.
3 of
Thank
them
you.
have like the tabs, and then what I do is when I read a book, I highlight it, I tab it, and then I make a copy of that book that I travel with, because sometimes I forget it or I wish I had it on long flights, and so I have 2 identical books, and now they're both missing. So when kids come home from college, stuff disappears, right? It's
Amazing.
like, so I'm a practicing chiropractor, and I've got some questions when it comes to IBS and Crohn's disease, specifically, if you're okay answering this. How does it change? What are the preclusions? What are the benefits? Is there all upside? Is it something we should discuss a little deeper?
Yeah.
Those particular things where someone has some serious digestive and gut issues, specifically IBS and Crohn's, it's come up in my practice, and I thought, hey, I'm going to be sitting with the expert here soon. Let me relay that and then just see what the info is. So if you wouldn't mind, share with me.
Yeah, and it's a big problem right now. Gut health is horrific. So here's what I found in my practice, and then I wrote about it in the book, and this is what we're seeing work for everybody. There was a study that was done, 24 hours of fasting. It was out of MIT, showed that you got a boost of intestinal stem cells. So you and I talked about stem cells. Stem cells are cells that can go anywhere in the body and can repair it. So these are specific to the intestinal, the mucosal lining, inner lining of the gut. There also was incredible research that the longer you go into fasting, the time, I tried to find the exact hour, but it's somewhere after 17 hours, that the microbes start to spread out. They call it geographical relocation. So when you go into these longer fasts, this is longer than your 13-hour, 15-hour. I really encourage once a day with those patients that they do a 24-hour. You are changing the whole dynamic inside the gut. You're changing the terrain. The body's healing itself. So I found if I threw the people who had gut dysbiosis into a 24-hour fast every week, that we started to see a lot of IBS, a lot of leaky gut, a lot of candida and Crohn's start to calm down. Now, the next question was, well, okay, how do we get them back into food? And that's where you're going to see a split. Some people can do a longer fast, and then they do what I call the 3 Ps, more polyphenol, probiotic, and prebiotic foods. This is basically your salads, your nuts, your seeds, like feed those microbes. You just created this whole new environment. And so give them fiber, give them what they want so that they can start to grow and the good ones can be better.
And then things like sauerkraut,
fermented
foods would also benefit in that too. Okay.
Yeah, fermented foods. So that one camp did really well with that.
Okay.
And then another camp, and this is going to be sound like I just contradicted myself, but the other camp did really well with meat only. And this is what the research on meat only shows. Gundry's idea, Stephen Gundry's idea was that there are toxins in plants that some people's guts react to. I've had multiple conversations with Gundry, and he absolutely agrees that it's in the severe gut dysbiosis situations that they really react to the plants.
Okay.
So if you're okay with plants, break it with the 3 Ps. If you're not, try a day of meat only. And what it does is it upregulates T regulatory cells in the gut. So, and those are the cells that calm everything down.
Love it.
So there's going to be one of 2 approaches for people.
So the dysbiosis that's going on in there, the gut dysbiosis, I love that because that also talks about the fact that your body's still in control. It's just, the dys is just, it's out of harmony. It's not within ease. I'm going to give my 2 cents on this and just say, look, 12, 13 hours is nothing.
Yeah.
You can do 24 hours easily. So if we're talking about the difference of 12 or 17 hours, just go for the 24. You won't notice the difference.
Yes.
And as soon as you do this once, like anything, do hard things, then it becomes easier.
Right.
And all of a sudden, your body actually gets into this rhythm of and so just from reading your book and understanding bits and pieces of this, I don't eat on Mondays.
Nice.
I don't have to remember my water bottle. I don't need a certain powder. I didn't need a financial bank account to buy my supplements. They didn't need to drop ship on it. The easiest thing about this is it's a don't do activity.
Yes.
It's a stop doing thing. It's a stop it. It's so good. So for me, every Monday, but I've got some patients that are going to love that. And I kind of want to double click on the stem cells. And I know some of these answers, but I want to really make it clear for people. And then if you're cool, then I'm going to share these clips with my patients and
Yeah,
go,
of course.
here's what the expert said. Two things. One is yourself and Gundry. Is there a plant list or a top 3 that are like, oof, don't do those?
Yeah, there are. It's called oxalates and lectins, and those are the toxins in plants, and some have higher amounts of those than others. Mm-hmm. So this is where, I don't know if kale all of a sudden became the enemy for a while. Right. I'm like, is the world mad at kale? There's a lot of other things to be mad at.
Right.
But it's because it has so many oxalates and lectins. So the lower ones that I really like are like the peppers. Like peppers are great. Even some of the low glycemic fruits are really good. Cucumbers are really low in oxalates and lectins. So you can Google that and just see which ones are high and which ones are low.
I know my listeners. Could you spell those words for me? Let's just start with oxalates.
No.
It's
oxalates.
You can Google it. Well, that would require spelling, Mindy, and that could be a problem.
Well, all you have to do is Google what plants have the most toxins in them.
Toxins. Okay.
That's what I would say.
Okay. But is it safe to say things with a lot of water, watermelon, cucumbers, things like that would have less of that?
Yeah.
Is it also true maybe like nightshades and things like that would be a little more? Okay.
Yeah. And fermenting foods. This is so I have a podcast, and every expert I've ever talked to, I feel like the only thing that all the nutritional experts can agree upon is fermented foods rock, and we should do more of it.
Yeah.
So when you ferment a food, you actually get rid of the toxins.
Right.
So you could, we do for dinner a lot of times in my house, we'll do a big grass-fed steak and a side of sauerkraut.
Love it.
And that's it.
Couple bites. I just started doing that just after listening to you. Did a 5-day water fast. And what that means is you don't not drink water for 5 days. You drink only water for 5 days. And then what we did is actually broke it with the sauerkraut and waited at least an hour. I followed your recommendation. I can't tell you how good it is. But if you break your fast with candy or sugar, wow, is that bad? So also how you come out of it's really important.
Agreed.
So,
Agreed. And I just want to highlight that because that was one of the big things that a lot of people missed is they were like, oh, if I fast, okay, then I should just be good and I don't have to worry about what I eat. Now,
why are you looking at me when you say that? What is that all about? Were you listening on the conversation? I'm like, pizza and Snickers. That's not how you break a fast. I'm like, I just didn't eat for I think I earned this. It's like, okay, you weren't in that conversation.
No, I didn't hear that conversation.
Just a good guess. Yeah.
I just know what people are thinking.
Right.
I've listened to enough people on this. Yeah. It's really funny because one of the best studies that was ever done and was published in Cell Metabolism showed that when people just took all their toxic food and they put it in an 8-hour eating window, leaving the rest of the time for fasting, their blood sugar didn't go up, their insulin didn't go up, their blood pressure didn't go up, they didn't see high cholesterol, but they were still eating horrible food.
Right.
So I'm not recommending that, but that's where I look at that. I'm like, that's our door out of this metabolic crisis we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. So Cell Metabolism magazine, I don't think that's on my reading list.
Yeah. It's
another reason people should listen to you, right? It's like, if that's not on your reading list, then maybe just get the Cliff Notes from Mindy. That's how I got through school. Welcome to Grow with Glow, the show where we explore ways to stay healthy naturally and grow your influence. Today's episode is brought to you by Element, the clean salt electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing you don't. There's no sugar, just the essentials for optimal hydration. Whether you're an athlete, busy professional, or just someone who wants to stay hydrated, Element is designed for you. So what sets Element apart? Well, it's the science-backed formulation. You see, Element is created by experts who understand the importance of electrolytes like sodium, potassium, and magnesium in maintaining proper hydration and supporting overall health. These electrolytes are crucial for muscle function, energy, and anything that makes Element stand out is its commitment to real, clean ingredients. You won't find any artificial sweeteners or flavors in here. Element is keto-friendly, paleo-friendly, and suitable for a variety of dietary preferences. And here's the best part. For our listeners, Element has a special offer. Your first purchase through the website and the link below in the show notes will get you an offer where a complimentary package is sent with the purchase of your first item. So again, use the link in the show notes, and when you make a purchase, you will get a complimentary pack at no extra fee. You're going to enjoy it, and again, it's paleo and keto friendly, keeping you hydrated. So Stem cells. I want to come back to that as well, because I take care of a number of professional athletes. Some of them I can talk about and I mention, and some of them I don't. But a lot of them, when they get older in years, and especially for some of the hard cutting and driving, and it could be winter sports on skis, it could be NBA players, stem cell injections have become more and more common. And some of them are being told to do it before they have joint pain. When we talk about stem cells, I know that's what a lot of people think about as outside in.
Yep.
Our philosophy, and what I like to teach my patients as a chiropractor, is inside out, or at least inside out first.
Agreed.
Can we talk a little bit more about stem cells?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing this up, because this is something I preach all the time, which is you have an option with stem cells. You can go and pay $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 and get an injection, or you can learn to fast and have your body make it yourself. So the 2 points of stem cell production with fasting, one I already talked about, is at 24 hours you get intestinal stem cells. The third one is when you go into those 72-hour fasts. So this was Walter Longo's research. He's one of the premier fasting researchers out there. And he found that at 72 hours, it's like a switch of stem cells that kicks in. And here's the trick, the longer you stay after that 72 hours, the more stem cell production you get.
Awesome. So
I'll give an example of myself. I had an Achilles tendon injury, and I love to run. And I was like, oh, this is horrible. Like, of all the musculoskeletal injuries, you do not want to tear an Achilles tendon. It's horrific. So, and my husband had that the year before. So I tried everything. I tried, obviously chiropractic, massage. I tried, acupuncture. I tried everything to heal it. Nothing was healing it. So I was like, well, I better take my own medicine. And I went in on a 5-day water fast. And on about day 4, I felt this little buzz in my Achilles tendon. Cool. I felt the pain go away. Cool. By day 5, the pain was gone. Yeah. Never has come back. Wow. So whatever happened is like I had 2 days of stem cells.
Right.
It literally never came back. So we can look at it for treating musculoskeletal injuries going into those longer ones. And then we can come over to the comment about how do we prevent it? Well, I do a 3-day water fast twice a year, January, September. Those are my markers. And then you're getting those stem cells all the time, just making sure that you're preventative and ahead of the game.
That's huge. So it sounds like pulling food out of the equation is removing the interrupter.
Yeah.
And pulling this thing out of the equation actually allows your body's healing power to really not necessarily be magnified. It's not like you're treating it. You're just removing the negative so more positive can go on.
Yeah.
Is that a good way for people to think about it?
It's literally removing the interference of the body's ability to heal itself. It's like a road and here's the challenge about food right now. It is filled with so many toxins. Yeah. And so even those of us that are trying to consciously eat well, we're struggling because of the way that the food manufacturers are producing food. Right. So every time you eat, you're creating this imbalance in the body. And every time you fast, you're removing that imbalance so the body can heal itself.
Huge.
Right.
So we are at a hotel, and I tried to order the Bill Gates breakfast this morning. It was artificial steak and artificial eggs. I'm just kidding. But did
they really call it that?
No, but they should, because that's one of the people that's really promulgating this idea of fake meat and fake AIDS. And like, who knows what's in your food these days? Yeah. And let's talk about what's not in your food these days. Like, if steak isn't steak, I think we've got an issue. So how important is it to eat organic, grass-fed, things where they're not super synthetic?
So I think it's massively important. And here's why a fasting lifestyle will allow you to do that, is most people will discover they're only eating 1 to 2 meals a day. So you're taking one whole meal out of the equation, which is saving you money. And that's money you can put back into eating higher quality food.
Love it.
There was an article that came out 2 years ago that said the F in the FDA is silent. And they actually, it's a joke within the administration. They're like, oh yeah, we don't care about food. We care about drugs. Okay, it came out in the LA Times. Did anybody talk about it? Did anybody highlight it? No.
Right.
So we can't assume that the government is going to protect us when it comes to ingredients. So we need to take matters into our own hands, which is why we go longer periods of time without food. And when we do eat, we make it count with good quality food.
Absolutely. The silent F in the Food and Drug Administration, meaning Nobody's looking at the food. And how ironic that we have foods and drugs in the same administration.
Well,
First of
well
all,
said.
like talk about
That's
two
a good
different ends
point.
of the spectrum. One's
Yeah.
synthetic, one's supposed to be natural,
Yeah.
but now the food's moving closer to synthetic.
Yeah.
So maybe they do belong in the same house. Who knows, right?
Yes.
But this idea of the standard American diet, like those are three letters that actually make sense. It's SAD. It's sad.
It's a very sad diet.
Yeah.
And I'm in the process of writing this next book, and I was just on this section on the plane over here. We should be angry. We have to start standing up and saying no more. You cannot put cancer-causing chemicals in our food. You can't destroy our hormones with hidden ingredients. So the only way we're going to make change is when we vote with our dollars.
Right on.
So we've got to be able to understand what these ingredients are, which is what the next book will be. And we start building these lifestyles that are suiting our own innate intelligence.
Absolutely.
And then eventually they'll listen. But right now we should be angry.
I'm happy to hear you say that, because I am angry in raising 4 children and trying to keep it in a natural, healthy lifestyle. It's not easy, and it takes education. It takes extra dollars. And in my vocabulary, the F is not silent.
Right.
Because I've freaking had enough, and that's not the F word I would use. You know what I mean? It's just, but it's like, this is not.
There's a lot of Fs.
Yeah, absolutely. And but final thought on this, and just to kind of make this make sense for people who are just kind of warming up to the idea, because I know you've got your devoted fans, and I applaud them. They are following the right person. I get to know Mindy on a personal basis. She is more fun in person than she shows on camera. She's more intelligent than she lets on. Just reading Cell magazines for fun, like who does that, right? But to the betterment of the audience, which I think is huge. But even simple things, and I want to introduce maybe these concepts that people go, I don't know if I could do that. No, you can do it. But things like gluten and understanding that 50% or more of your immune system's in your gut.
Yeah.
Is it possible that gluten could be interrupting immune process, could be clogging you up, could be creating other issues?
Yeah,
for your body?
and so here's what you need to know on gluten is the gluten you're eating today is not the gluten you ate 30 years ago. So the way they grow wheat now is that they want mass production so they've genetically modified it. Even the organic, I've talked to a lot of farmers who are like, yeah, even the organic seeds are now genetically modified. And within those, what they have is a toxin called Bt toxin. And Bt toxin is great for the farmer because if a bug goes to eat its wheat, then what ends up happening is that bug will die.
Right.
Well, we have bugs in our gut. Our gut is all microbes.
Microbiome.
Yeah. So what is happening when we're eating wheat is that we're destroying the microbiome. So, and the microbiome gives you serotonin to keep you happy. It supports your immune system. I just found a study last night about how the microbiome actually sends a signal to the liver and tells the liver how to regulate blood sugar. So when we're eating wheat, which is the main source of gluten, over and over and over again, you're literally destroying your microbiome, and it's contributing to more than just I'm bloated or I'm not. You're creating this whole dysfunction within the body because you need those microbes.
Yeah. So it's not just the symptom of I feel bloated. It's actually, it's a deeper level. So the symptoms are really kind of letting your body know there's a cause beneath it. And that cause beneath it done for years is really going to create havoc.
That's right.
It's going to create damage.
Yeah.
And more than half your immune system is in your gut. So then what happens is you start getting colds and flus and things like that. And the cold season isn't because it's cold outside. It actually has to do with the vitamin D. And so, monsoon season in warm places is cold and flu season because the clouds cover the sun, and that's your vitamin D. And so you really start to put all these pieces together. We have to educate ourselves. We have to help people be educated so we can be pushing back. We can let the F no longer be silent.
Right.
Food and Drug Administration say, take care of us. These chemicals are awful. It's destroying people's health, and it's slowly over time. It's not a lifestyle. It's a death style.
That was well said. It is a death style. And what I hear a lot from people is that, well, I don't have time, or it's really complicated, which it is.
Right.
But now you have to educate yourself. If you do not educate yourself, it is a death sentence. Yeah. And so what I'm trying to do with my books is let me make it simple. Of course, I'm making it for a woman's body because we're underrepresented. We've been completely left out of the healthcare system.
Absolutely.
So, but I'm trying to make this as simple and understandable as possible so that people can step into their own healing power, and we don't need the corporations to behave a certain way.
Absolutely. And I will give some sound bites on things like Maui versus Monsanto. And there's been micro studies of places where they've done this on island cultures. We go to Maui every year, and that was a big deal of what they did with GMOs and what they did with the bugs and the gluten. And some of this stuff is played out in court, so there's documents on this. But then they test it, and then they do it on a much bigger scale. And now you'd be hard-pressed to find foods that don't have this stuff. You know, so that's it. So this book is phenomenal, Fast Like a Girl. I'm going to ask you one pointed question at the end. For my patients with IBS, Crohn's disease, what is the time frame that you would say they should fast for optimal? It could be a range, but what would be optimal for them?
So in the back of the book, I put all the protocols that I used on, so that what I use fasting as you go in and out and in and out. So make sure you go and look at the gut protocol. But to answer your question for the sake of this conversation, I think something like a 5-1-1, where 5 days a week you intermittent fast. 13 hours, 15 hours is fine. 1 day a week, you stretch that fast, get it to 24. It might take you some time to train yourself to get there, but we want that gut reset. And then 1 day a week, don't fast. Now you're really actually mimicking what our primal ancestors did. They didn't have access to food all the time.
Right.
So they had to know how to go longer periods. And then when they ate, they feasted.
I freaking love it. That's what I was hoping would come out of this, because I know it's in the book. So I'm kind of like, in here is the manual. So please buy the books, highlight them, do what we do. And then you can gently place these as like reminders for the people that need them. And in my practice, if you're a doctor or healthcare practitioner, get these for your patients, give them out. It's so cool when they come in and they thank me for the book. I go, wow, I didn't actually write it. Mindy did, you know, it's like, but what's cool is it's an easy guide to go here. And sometimes as practitioners, it's like, well, how do you say it? They go, well, it's not what you say. Sometimes it's what you do. Take the book, you know, whatever this is, it's a gift that will change someone's life. And then they reciprocate that. I think that's huge. But that 501 is massive. And I completely agree. Again, having 2 daughters, it's an underrepresented field. My oldest plays college lacrosse, so the demands on her body and things are even different still. They play in the middle of the day in Florida. And so just really kind of figuring those things out. It took us a couple of years to make some proper tweaks and changes for her. It's been massive, and you've been a huge part of that. So sincerely, I thank you. I don't enjoy being the doctor to my children. I just want to be their. I just want to be their dad.
Mine don't listen to me either. So.
Let's not get into spouses. We won't talk about that.
You can take my children.
Oh, absolutely. But you've taken mine. And I want to say a heartfelt thank you, because you've had a dramatic impact in my home. The book continues to do that. I know I've been adamant about sitting down and doing some of these things with you, and you're going to address a group of docs for me. It's from a place of results.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for everything you're doing. I just feel like we're more powerful together, all of us, all the doctors, all the patients. Like, we have to come together on this. And so I just appreciate the opportunity to get the message out.
You're phenomenal. And I just want to be clear that you shouldn't break a fast with pizza, right?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean,
I've only made that mistake twice. I just did it twice.
Just let me know how you feel.
I thought it was because it was a pepperoni pizza, and it just turns out pizza in general wasn't good. Hey, Mindy Pelz is phenomenal. She's got a series of books coming out. She's writing like a fiend, not because it's easy, but because she cares. And if you get that sense of that from these videos and her podcasts and what she puts on YouTube, like, click, follow her, comments, share everything that she's put out there. And if you have a couple moments, it means a world to the author, like it does to athletes, when you leave the positive stuff underneath it. So take a moment for the hours of research she's done, for the hours of writing she's done to put into a 10, 12, 15-minute video for you. Give her a couple minutes of your time back. It would make a world of difference. And if you've got a good book and it helps you out, share it with someone else. Don't keep it to yourself. We're on a mission to make this world a better place. And it's going to come from us. It isn't going to come from top down. It's going to come from bottom up. It's a grassroots effort. And I just want to say, if you enjoy what she does, she's sincere, she's authentic, she's a beautiful soul, and she's helping a lot of people. And I'm happy to call you my friend. So thank you for doing that, sweetie. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Grow with Glow. If you want to follow up with us or shoot us a message, we are on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Dr. Glow DC. Again, that's Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, Dr. Glow DC. And if you want to see some of the highlights and short clips, you can follow us on YouTube at Grow with Glow. Of course, if you want to leave a positive message, we are always looking for positive comments. 5-star review on iTunes would be terrific. And like your mother said, if you have nothing nice to say nothing at all. But we do appreciate the shares, comments, and likes. Trying to keep this world a positive, healthy place is not easy, and I could certainly use your help. Cheers, everyone. Until next time, keep growing.